my lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly. If you think you'll win, nah, likely. I be taking shots, yeah, cold-blooded, icy. Watching numbers grow is what I call sightseeing. In the front row, run it up when they hype me. The following grows, they know how to ignite me. Call me CEO, I've been running right, see. And I ain't playing games, I create my own lane, making pleasure out of pain, turning losses into...
What is up, everybody? I'm your host, Daniel J. This is State of the Steelers. This is the post-game show. Please let me know in the live chat if you guys can hear me. I'm in live in location. I was at the game today in Acrisure Stadium. It was a good game, y'all. It was a really good game. I enjoyed it thoroughly. There was a little bit of ups and downs in the first half. In the second half, this team really propelled into the next step that they were looking to do. So they put up points, scoring 28, holding the Browns to 14. And in reality, y'all, the Browns were aided by a roughing the passer that, I'll be honest with you, that was bull crap. I was in that end, my seats are in the end zone, and so I was in that end zone where Cam Hayward tackled Deshaun Watson as they were going towards that end zone. And, the replay, the whole 9 yards, it was a bull crap play. So the Browns were aided by they got 4 points there because of the refs. To start off the game, the Pittsburgh Steelers drove down the field, and Najee Harris ends up fumbling the ball. I haven't yet to see the actual footage from the game, as far as I haven't seen the on-air game. Only just going by my recollection of the game there. I know that on that first drive, it appeared from my angle, because that was also the end zone that they were coming into, that Najee Harris got into the end zone. Mike Tomlin doesn't challenge it. 2 plays later, Najee Harris fumbles the ball, and Browns take over. Well, let me say hello to a few people in the live chat real quick. We have Steelers fan. How's it going? Viper7290. Good seeing you. We have Alan Howard. How's it going? Robert. Good seeing you. Jennifer. Big Blue in the house. Daniel Rocha. Yeah, that's true. I heard there was a face mask penalty on Ogunjobi. I was from behind that penalty, so I couldn't tell if it really was. I know Deshaun Watson was arguing that he had his face mask held. Sound of the renegade. But for the most part, I couldn't tell from where I was sitting if it was a face mask or not. But in this game, the Pittsburgh Steelers dominated in the second half. Were able to move the ball down the field. And I think that, the playoffs, it sucks, man. Buffalo wins, the Jets take Miami down to the wire. And from what I understand, there was a controversial play in that game that extended that game, or that extended that drive for the Dolphins, that allowed them to get into field goal range and make a game-winning field goal. But for this game, I thought the Pittsburgh Steelers did well. We'll go over some of the stats from the game. Kenny Pickett was 13 of 29, which in reality, he should have been had probably 5 or 6 more of those balls caught, especially coming from Deontay Johnson. I was super disappointed in his performance early on in this game. I'm part of one of the members of Behind the Steel Curtain. I do the audio-only podcast for Saturday, and I'm on the Slack channel with them. And there was a joke in there about Deshaun Watson and how slippery it was, that he still must have that massage oil on him. It was hard to tackle him. Well, I think some of that oil got on Deontay Johnson's gloves too, because he was having a trouble holding onto the ball. Now, there was a drop that on the field was ruled as a fumble. I thought it was a fumble from where I saw it, and then, of course, the replay showed that it was one of Deontay's better drops, in my opinion, because it ended up with the Steelers back possession of the ball and not giving the Cleveland Browns possession, inside the 40 of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's just, man, the game was so fun. It was great. It was a good game. It's just disappointing that there's no next week. Pat Freiermuth went down with a knee injury, and from what I could tell and from what I could see on the screen, it didn't look good. It looked like it was a non-contact knee injury, which typically means, not usually the best news. But we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that it's nothing as serious as it looked. They ruled him out pretty quickly, and that's also another thing that kind of is a little bit disappointing. But this team is moving in the right direction. I said this after the bye. I was like, playoffs is just playoffs are going to be a man. I hear some noise going on outside. Uh, the playoffs are just a wish at this point, right? And I thought that, in my opinion, that the Pittsburgh Steelers did well. They moved the ball down the field, and I thought that. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. I'm hearing a bunch of noise over here. Uh, I felt that the Pittsburgh Steelers, after the bye week, getting into the playoffs wasn't the most important thing for the Steelers. It was getting better, digging themselves out of the hole that they created. And like Mike Tomlin said, they got to get themselves back to respectability. They had themselves in a hole early, and they went 2-6. They went 7-2 on the other side of the bye. This is the right direction. Kenny Pickett looks like he's going to be a guy. He's throwing the ball well. He seemed to feel good. I'm not going to say it's perfect or anything like that. He missed some throws there, and there were some wide open guys down the field in certain parts of the game. But from where he was when he came in against Buffalo and how he's progressed and developed throughout the entire year, I feel that he's done an amazing job. His arrow is pointing up. Najee Harris in the running game and Jaylen Warren, that's going in the right direction. This offensive line is going in the right direction. I think this is going to be a team that's going to be a contender for years to come. I think the Steelers have found the pieces that they want, and now they're in position to, make a real move next season. To be a contender. Going into this season, they already have 17 million. Going into next season, I'm sorry, and Mitch Trubisky came out earlier, stated that he wished he would have waited a little bit longer, maybe not sign with the Steelers so fast. I think that's outcome based, he got benched, whatever, right? I'm sure if he didn't get benched and he succeeded, he wouldn't have said that, right? But he did. And so what that leads me to believe is he's probably not going to be a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers next season, which isn't a bad thing. Next year he's accounts for $10 million to the cap. If the Steelers cut him or trade him, he only accounts for 2. And so, and there's a possibility if he, gets traded, that whoever the Steelers trade that pick 2, that those guys will take on his contract. And so maybe the Steelers will get $10 million added to the 17 that they already have, bringing them a total of $27 million free. That'll give them an opportunity to sign some players and re-sign some players. You have Cam Sutton that's going into the season as a free agent. Larry Ogunjobi's going in as a free agent. Terrell Edmonds is going to be a free agent. And those are guys, in my opinion, that the Pittsburgh Steelers probably need to sign and extend for a longer period of time. On the offensive side, I know Derek Watt is going into free agency. I think that's it. I mean, maybe some backup receivers, I'm not sure. But for the most part, this team's going to be intact and ready to rock and roll next season and move possibly into being a contender. They also got the third, they're also ranked third in the division. That usually indicates that when you're ranked third, you're going to have a third ranked strength schedule next season. I believe the Steelers are playing the South and the West. South on the AFC West, on the NFC side. Those aren't daunting divisions to go up against. So they're going to have an opportunity to go into next season with money, free agency, and an easier schedule. And not to mention, the Bears got first overall pick. That means the Steelers are going to get that first pick in the second draft. They've set themselves up pretty good to make this team go for a significant contention run next season and for a few seasons to come. I think the progression of George Pickens is, man, that guy's talent is through the roof. I couldn't see, I didn't have the preview of the cameras, from the television screen, but there was one pass before the end of the half that he ended up catching and they ruled it out of bounds. But, on the Jumbotron, it looked like his feet were in. Let me know in the comment section, were his feet in? I know that the refs didn't even look at the play. The Steelers ended up calling a timeout. It was within 2 minutes, so it would have been a call from the booth. I thought his feet were in bounds. Um, Hayward and Hayward did do an amazing job, especially after you see Pat Firemuth go down. Connor Hayward comes in and he made some incredible catches. He really did. And Pickett threw a ball to him down the seam. It was a little bit back shoulder. He had to turn around and catch it out of the air and pluck it, and he was able to do so. I thought he did a fantastic job. Jennifer says it was close. Yeah, it looked close on the field. It was very, on the jumbotron, but oh wow, Cam Hayward has 23 million contract next year. Well, I'm pretty sure that's going to get what's what I'm looking for, uh, restructured or redone by next season. By the time that starts, and then that'll add to more possible money for other players to come in. But I thought for this game, I thought the defense did well. They held another team under 20 points. I believe the Cleveland Browns only had 7 yards in the third quarter. I mean, talk about a role reversal. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been the team that have been struggling out of the half. Third quarter was their kryptonite, so to speak. And in this game, they were able to flip the script, be the dominant team in the third, and on both sides of the ball. And so, I thought the team did well. So we'll go back to the stats. Kenny Pickett had 195 yards, should have been more. A lot of drops there. 6.7 yard per average, 1 touchdown, 1 sack. So he did very well, 79 rating and a 66.9 QBR. Najee Harris was 23 for 84 yards, 3.7 average. And statistically, it wasn't his best day, but he was able to move the pile when needed and get those yards. I'll be honest, reading this and seeing 3.7 average, it didn't feel like it was a 3.7 average game. He was getting significant yards in significant moments. And Jalen Warren had a big run for 22 yards. He went 6 for 36. And Steve Sims went 1 for 16. Connor Hayward had a big run as well, converting a third down. He was 1 for 6. Derek Watt was 1 for 1, had a touchdown. And Kenny Pickett, he only got 1 yard for 3 attempts. He's not really getting out there trying to run the ball. And that's one thing that I like about his game is that he's elusive in the pocket. His feet are amazing as far as getting out of danger. His ability to run and move is fantastic. And he keeps his eyes down the field. He's looking to make a play with his arm, not so much with his legs. And I really like that and enjoy that about his game. Like I said, I think this team is on another level. George Pickens had three receptions, 72 yards on 6 targets, 1 touchdown, 31-yard long. And I mean, the guy just continues to make impressive catches. The least impressive catch is probably the touchdown. It was his easiest one. Very similar and very reminiscent to the game-winning touchdown pass against the Raiders. And I said in that game as well that, if the Steelers weren't that close to the end zone and he catches that ball in that fashion, no matter where you're at on the field, that was going to be a touchdown. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of people were saying it's hard to tell if his foot hit the chalk. It was close. Looked like his left foot tapped twice. Oh, that would be nice. Joey Porter Jr. with the second pick there. That would definitely be good. But yeah, I would have thought if it was that difficult to tell that they would have taken another a second look at it at the very least. As far as the defense goes, let me pull that up real quick. Deshaun Watson was sacked 7 times. That was crazy. They got to him early and often and throughout the entire game. They got in his head. He was rattled. He threw a couple of interceptions. He threw 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Those interceptions were huge. The defense really stepped up, sacking him 7 times, and it really could have been a hell of a lot more. But that guy is super elusive. That's why they got him. The Cleveland Browns was for him to make those type of plays, and he was able to do so. But for the most part, the Pittsburgh Steelers were able to dominate him. Nick Chubb had 12 carries for 77 yards, 6.4 average, 15 long. That's the one thing about the Cleveland Browns is they'll have a successful formula going on. I mean, if somebody's running for 6.4 yards average and you only give them 12 times, That's you guys want to talk. People want to talk about Matt Canada being a bad offensive coordinator, and they look at Kevin Stefanski as being some kind of genius. I don't think so, man. You don't fix what's not broken in this situation. You're running for 6.4 yards average, and you only rush the ball 12 times. Amazing, amazing. Deshaun Watson had 6 carries for 44 yards, 21 long. Kareem Hunt had 4 carries for 13, 3.3 average. As a team, the Browns ran for 134 yards compared to the Pittsburgh Steelers 148. Steelers were able to run the ball and use multiple players to do so. Um, so Jennifer says, I don't think they would have overturned the call on the field. Yeah, it's possible. I just would have liked for them to at least look at the play and make that determination, even if that wasn't called off. The Steelers were able to contain Amari Cooper. He only had 2 receptions for 51 yards, and he had one big one for 36 yards. Nick Chubb, he had 5 receptions for 45 yards. He was the most targeted receiver, was their running back. So, Deshaun Watson was dumping it down quite a bit. But I think the Pittsburgh Steelers did well. I think that they played well enough to be in the playoffs. It's just unfortunate that early on in the season, they weren't able to put it together in time, so to speak. Man, there's so many games that could have gone the other way for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they would be having a game next week. Miami, the Ravens game where Mitch Trubisky threw 3 interceptions, the Jets game, the Patriots game where Gunnar fumbled the ball on a punt. It's just such a string of bad luck in the beginning portion of the year that ended up costing for the Pittsburgh Steelers a possible playoff spot at the end of the year. But yeah, Steelers did take a timeout at that time, so they could get a second look by somebody, but unfortunately they didn't, or they didn't call it on the field at least. And so, they showed it on the Jumbotron, and it looked like he had both feet in bounds, but it is what it is. You can't change those type of things. But the Steelers are going into the offseason. I believe they're number 18 in the draft order. They're going to have an opportunity to get some key players in key positions, and really move this train moving forward. I'm super inspired by what they were able to do. After the game, Najee Harris was asked about Matt Canada. He came to his defense, kind of said, hey, I know what people say about, using the same plays and this, that, and a third, but everybody does. It's not so much about the play call as much as it is the execution of the play call. And that's kind of something that I've been echoing on this entire year. And I, for one, think that this rushing game has improved. Passing, it can be a little bit better. I would like to see more targets to George Pickens. One thing that I was glad to see in this game that wasn't present in the last game was the play action pass. I felt that it was also effective when it was used, mainly because of the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers really didn't use it too often this year. And they were being successful on the ground, and they were doing it early and often, that had they thrown in a couple of, play action passes, that it would work. And in this game, it did. I felt that they did a fantastic job doing that. This team, I'm super proud of them, man. Going from 2-6 to being 9-8, that's something special. You can't win off 4 games in a row or however many that they've won, and go 7-2 and not feel like this team is special and moving in the right direction. They just got to get a little things fixed and tweaked. Kenny Pickett said after the game as well that he didn't get much time with the starters or reps or any of those things until the game against the Jets, and that they've been trying to play a little bit of catch up, and makes complete sense. And, going into next season, he's going to have a whole off season to prepare with the receivers and the running backs and the whole offense in general, and really build that chemistry and move forward. I'm super excited for the Pittsburgh Steelers next season. I think that they're going to be a contender, y'all. They're going to be a contender. So we got BW Racing. He said, "Go Fins! Good job, Steelers." If you're a Miami Dolphins fan, congratulations to you and your team for making the playoffs. It's I'm sure you're excited and thrilled about it. I know I would, had things gone a different way. But in this game, another thing I know. Well, I'm from Texas. He also. It's like 60 degrees right now. Man, it was cold out there in Acrisure Stadium, and it wasn't even that windy or anything. I could not imagine that Christmas Eve game a couple of games ago, where the Pittsburgh Steelers were playing in negative degree wind chill weather, and the wind was blowing. Out there today, it was, yeah, me and my dad, we went to the game. It was pretty cold. Um, let's see. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Let me know. This is going to be the last show of the 2022 season. So it's not going to be the last show at all. We'll be continuing to do shows and talk about the Steelers, but the next playlist will be Steelers 2023 because that's where we're focused in at this point, and we're going to be looking on to next season. And we'll see what happens for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's see. Do I have anything here? What's going on, Brian Brown? Robert Cotting says Deontay Johnson get open a lot more than Pickens, but once in a while drops a pass. It felt like more than once in a while in this game for me. It was I don't know if it was just the jitters or what the situation was, but it felt like he was dropping the ball more often than he normally does. He's due for a drop every now and then. But man, in this game, he really dropped a lot. Thank you so much for BW for subbing. I appreciate that. Game was kind of embarrassing. Well, I mean, you're down to your third string quarterback. You're playing Joe Flacco. It's probably you're going to want to see two in the next week or so. But thank you. I appreciate the sub. If you're not subscribed to the channel or whatnot, please sub. I'd appreciate that. Definitely some positives to build from. Didn't see them with this record when the season started. Yeah, when the season started, I had predicted that this team would win 10 to 11 games, and that was even with Mitch Trubisky as possibly the starting quarterback. And mainly that had to do a lot with the defense. I felt that this defense was strong enough. It was a championship style defense that would, hold down teams, and that Mike Tomlin was going to be able to put enough points on the board to be successful at least 10 to 11 times out of these games. And in most, and he very well could have. I mean, you look at some of the games where Mitch Trubisky threw 3 interceptions against the Ravens, like I mentioned, or Pickett having the ball early on when he's just started against Miami and given an opportunity to win that game, throws 2 interceptions. And so when it comes down to it, those execution stuff that happened early on in the season kind of just screwed us over. Let's see. Brian Brown goes, what happened to the Jets? They couldn't score a TD. Yeah, I don't think anybody scored a TD in that game. I think it was 11-6 was the end result in that game. Man, I don't know. I didn't get a chance to watch it. I didn't get a chance to watch that game. Everybody was checking the score throughout the entire game, and every now and then the Steelers would post up on the scoreboard what the score was, and so it was. Everybody was trying to follow along. We were super pleased with the Bills going up, and yeah, it just sucks, man, that this season ends. I thought that the Steelers were going to end up finding themselves in the playoffs, and by the sound of Mike Tomlin, I think he thought the same as well. He was super disappointed at his press conference at the end of the game, basically just saying, I wasn't ready for this. I was ready to be, gearing up for a game next week. And unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. We'll be watching the playoffs from home, but we can do so with our heads high because this team really did turn it around, y'all. They really did. Let's see. Yes, she was. Yes, she was. This is my wife, by the way, y'all. I had her telling me towards the end of the Dolphins game, I was like, "Hey, this scoreboard up here just says the score. It doesn't tell me where the Jets are. It doesn't tell me what part of the field they are or who has the ball. I need you to let me know what's going on. Let me know what's going on." And maybe I shouldn't, because when she wasn't telling me it was 6-6, and then when she did, they started moving up. But next season it just sucks because we got to look forward to next season now. But next season, I think it's going to be the window's open, y'all. The window's open, in my opinion. It was pretty close earlier this season. It cracked a little bit, but now I truly think that the window is open for this team to be a contender. A lot of the other thing that happened this season as well is TJ Watt missed 7 games, and out of those 7 games, the Steelers lost 6. And so, I can almost guarantee you that if he's 100% healthy, didn't have that pec injury, that the Steelers win at least one of those games, if not more than one. And the Steelers are in the playoffs, but didn't happen. That's not the way. That's not the way the cookie crumbled, so to speak. And so, the Steelers put themselves in a hole, and now they're not going to the playoffs. But like I said, arrows pointing up. Arrows pointing up. We did it. We won. Yeah, we sure did. We sure did. I could always watch. I actually am. going to watch USFL, and I'm also going to watch the XFL. I think it's starting. Maybe that's next year. I'm not sure. But I do intend on catching up to these non-NFL football teams that are going to be playing. Thank you so much, BW. I appreciate that. And so, what's the next step? Where do the Steelers go from here? Pat Freiermuth went down with a knee injury. It didn't look good. It looked like it was a non-contact knee injury from what I could see in the Jumbotron. Connor Hayward stepped up. Zach Gentry is going to be a free agent this year. Do they re-sign him, or do they go somewhere else with that tight end position? If it ends up being an injury that keeps Freiermuth out for part of next season, that's a big question. I think Zach Gentry did an okay job today filling in, but I felt that Connor Hayward really popped off the field there. I felt that Connor Hayward was able to catch the ball. I'm going to have to go back and look at the film and see, how he was doing when he came to the blocking aspect of his game. But as far as running the ball in his hands and catching the ball, I thought he did a fantastic job. He had one drop in the end zone that went through his hands, but the Steelers were still able to put up 7 on that drive, so it really didn't cost them much. And so that's going to be a big question there. The offensive lines, I thought they've done well. I thought they've progressed. I thought they've gotten better. Myles Garrett had 1 sack, but honestly, he really wasn't getting a lot of pressure on Kenny Pickett or any of those type of things. I felt that Dan Moore kind of, he did a good job today. He did a great job. Dotson, he kind of screwed up early in the game where he was down the field illegally. I'm not sure what he's thinking. He just kind of went, you got to know what the play is. And I understand there was some razzle-dazzle there and some play action and then a screen pass, but he immediately went up the field as if it was a run play. And, you can't do those type of things. And those are mistakes that have happened all year. Maybe not so much with Dotson. I know Cheeks Okorafor has been down the field a couple of times, but, those are things that need to be fixed. The left side of the line is probably the weaker side of the line. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Pittsburgh Steelers go out and get, left tackle, left guard, maybe even a center, and then move Mason Cole to left guard. I think Mason Cole is a very consistent, very, very dependable offensive lineman. I was very excited about his performance and the offensive line in whole. It took some time for Najee Harris to get his legs under him, so to speak. He had the injury early on in training camp. He missed a tremendous amount of preseason. He was only active for 1 preseason game. And then for the first quarter of the season, he had a plate in his foot or in his shoe. And so that was preventing him from running the way we all wanted him to run. And then he started doing this dancing around stuff. Once he started to figure the offensive line and knew what they were doing and they started to gel together, we really did start to see a much more improved Najee Harris and an improved running game that really took over. I think that's going to be the identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers for a long time, is going to be behind this 2-headed monster between Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren's that kind of, change of pace kind of guy who can run you over and run around you. Najee Harris can kind of do the same, but he's much bigger and much more physical. In my opinion, his strength is running over somebody. And I like seeing that from him. Let's see. Why did the Texans win? I have no idea. But at the end of the day, you play to win the game, regardless of, the players and the coaches that are out there, maybe the organization and the people up at the top, maybe not wanting them to win. And you'll see trades and things of that nature of their best players when you have weaker teams in an effort to um, maybe get a better draft pick and not win so many games. But the players that are put out there on the field, they don't see that. They don't care about that. They want to win the game. The coaches want to coach a game that's going to be a winning performance, and that's what they do. Uh, let's see. I like this comment. I like this comment. My dad says Cam Hayward said he doesn't know if management wants him back next year. Well, I hope they do. I think he's a leader on the defense. He's a captain on the defense. He played a great game today. He's played a great couple of games. I'm not so sure about at $23 million if they're going to want him back, but I'm sure if they can arrange something that they will. But he is getting kind of older. If he ends up not coming back, don't be surprised if the Pittsburgh Steelers attack defensive tackle early in the draft. And so, but I would definitely love to see Cam back. I think he still has a lot in the tank. I think he still has at least one, maybe two more years, to his game. Um, and I think that he's a dominant force, especially when healthy. You look at the snaps that he's taken all year and the percentage of the defensive plays that he's been playing. That's probably not the formula that you want with a defensive lineman at his age. And so I would want to bring him back. Maybe he takes a little bit of a pay cut and the Steelers build around him and get another defensive tackle, another defensive lineman. That way he's not on the field 90% of the time and he's only utilized maybe 70% of the time. Give him a break. And that way, when he is on the field, his impact is a little bit better, higher. He's, in my opinion, he's still playing at a top gear. I hope he comes back. Let's see. We have Steelers Nation, Australia in the house. I guess your table is safe, Mark. You can go on Facebook and mark safe from table. Because good old Mark D. Make sure you guys go subscribe to him. He was going to jump through a table if the Steelers made the playoffs and won the Super Bowl. It took a Super Bowl win if they were going to do it, but you never know. You never know. The Steelers have gotten hot in the right time. It was possible. Let's see. So Ali says Watt's price is too high for legit backup at his position. So if he's not there, I'm guessing he meant Derek Watt. Let's see. The countdown has started for Green and Canada, I hope. Yeah, there's been some talk about Canada not being there next season, that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to look at a different offensive coordinator. At this game here, I didn't think that the play scheme or the playbook or the play calls were bad. I thought that the offense was moving the ball fluidly. It didn't seem like, early on in the season, this team struggled to get drives together. It was constant 3 and outs. Once they started to, get first downs, it was like they were struggling to get, quarters together. They would play for 1 or 2 quarters a game and then a half. And then now finally they're playing a full game and competitive. And I felt that that has a lot to do with growth and development from this team and chemistry. And so, my opinion, hold on, I missed something, caught my eye. Watt will be back. I think there's a possibility. He's a great special teams guy, and the Pittsburgh Steelers really, really utilize and like special teams players. Look at what Boykin was able to do this year. He was able to do well, and when he went down with an injury earlier in the season, special teams became a liability while he was gone for a game or two. Derek Watt's probably going to be a guy in a similar fashion. I'm not sure if they have somebody that's going to replace him. I'm not sure he's worth, I think he's making like $3 million a year. That's not a lot of money, but for somebody that's, not utilized very much on the offense, maybe not so, but I have seen his utilization and his offensive production go up ever since Kenny Pickett took over as the starting quarterback. Last season, Derek Watt really didn't see the field. Early on in this season, when Mitch Trubisky was a quarterback, he didn't really see the field. I noticed his presence once Kenny Pickett got in there. Maybe it was because they were going back to more of a basic style offense, limiting and managing what they had based on a rookie quarterback and a lot of young players and new players to the offense. And so they went back to the basics, in my opinion. And I think it really showed and it really worked. I mean, his ability to get first downs is amazing. Now, in short and ones, he's got a knack for running the ball and getting those 1 or 2 yards that you need to convert those third and fourth down short conversions. Now, Connor Hayward, he's done that as well. In these last couple of games, he's been able to run the ball well. He's run the ball effectively. In college, he was a running back for a while there. And so he's not a stranger to running the ball. And so, it comes down to probably those two positions. Are you going to utilize and pay a Derek Watt, even though you have somebody like a Connor Hayward who can run the ball in those situations and get those first downs and also be effective in special teams and those type of things? I think that's what it's going to boil down to, is if Connor Hayward can do so. Sorry about that. Let's see, what else do we have out here? I was rooting for Dobbs. Hey, don't be surprised if Dobbs ends up back in the black and gold next season. Mason Rudolph is a free agent this offseason. Mr. Trubisky's probably not going to want to come back. He's going to want a place where he can have contention to be a starter. He's not going to be a starter here. And so the Steelers are going to need somebody. It wouldn't be a bad idea to get somebody who's familiar with the players, familiar with the coaches, familiar with the organization and the way they run things. I wouldn't mind bringing Dobbs back as that backup player to Kenny Pickett. And also because Dobbs also has some talent similar to Kenny Pickett in the fact that he's mobile. He's got legs, he can move, he's got some wheels. And so if Kenny Pickett were to go down or succumb to an injury for a short period of time, a week or two or whatnot, misses a game or two, the game plan doesn't have to change completely. I mean, you go and you look at the Baltimore Ravens and how their game plan stays the same, whether it's Lamar Jackson or Huntley, and that's because those quarterbacks are very similar in performance and skill and stature and things of that nature. And so, Joshua Dobbs can probably do a pretty decent job running this style of offense if needed to be put in there for a short period of time. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he's back. Titans O-line was like Swiss cheese. Yeah. Steelers Nation Australia says, I think Dobbs has a chance for being number 2. What do you think the Steelers go in free agency? My hope is Tremaine Edmonds, middle linebacker for the Buffalo Bills. I think you pair him up with Mark Robinson, who missed a couple of tackles this game. He had an opportunity to get a couple sacks there on Deshaun Watson, and he fell off. But he's a 7th-round rookie, still developing, still very raw. I anticipate him being way above and more advanced next year. He'll have another season under his belt. He'll have another off season with the entire, with Brian Flores. Hopefully he stays. Terrell Austin and the entire staff of the defense working with him. And I think he's going to be a guy. I think he can be like a Vince Williams type of guy, very dependable, hard-hitting, hard-nosed, puts his face in the fan, so to speak. Now, how he's going to do in coverage, that's yet to be determined. When it was obvious passing downs, they pulled Mark Robinson off the field. Getting another, season in his belt, I think that he's going to progress fine. But he's going to need somebody to be paired along with him. I don't think the answer is Robert Spillane for a long period of time. I know that's been the answer this season, especially here recently with him playing as many snaps as he has and how much of the percentage of the defensive snaps that he's played. And so, in my opinion, you need to go middle linebacker. And, you have four picks in the top 100. I have to go do the math, maybe even more than that. In this upcoming draft, then you could probably get yourself a serviceable middle linebacker. But I'm not sure you want to pair a middle linebacker, a rookie middle linebacker that's probably not going to be in the first round. I don't think the Steelers are going to attack middle linebacker in the first round. A second, third round middle linebacker with a Mark Robinson. I think you want somebody who's a little bit more veteran, more proven already. And so that's why I look at somebody like Tremaine Edmonds. I would hope that the Pittsburgh Steelers re-sign Terrell Edmonds. I think he's a valuable piece on the defense. And, when he was out earlier this year, it really showed up. It really showed that when he wasn't on the field. And so he's a really good Ryan Clark to Palomalu, Terrell Edmonds to Minka Fitzpatrick. I think he does a fantastic job. He gets in the box. He's very athletic, has bricks for hands, but it is what it is. He's not a receiver, so you can't expect him to make some catches in those moments. But for the most part, yeah. And it's also the Steelers love to bring family members. I swear, if you have an uncle or a nephew or cousin that once played in the NFL, the Pittsburgh Steelers are eyeing you. That's for sure. Let's see. The Dolphins got stripped of a first-round pick, so Steelers are picking 32. I forgot about that. That's true. Let's see. Steelers Freak says the Steelers needs are at O-line, D-line, inside linebacker, and cornerback. They can't go wrong with either the draft or free agency. 100%, 100%. And I think, once you see possibly a restructure on Cam Hayward's deal, you see Mr. Trubisky no longer part of the Pittsburgh Steelers and that money coming back, they're going to really have quite a bit to do something this offseason to really put themselves in position to fill all those holes and needs. And then that's not even including the draft. I mean, this team has a good way of going at it. Robert says, we need a nose tackle. I would agree. I would definitely agree to that. Let's see. Oh, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Mark Davison. He goes, here's some coin for Pittsburgh Iron City. Yeah, you know what? I might take you up on that and go get myself an Iron City beer after this post game. Let's see. Steelers Nation, you missed a zero on your dollar amount. That's funny. Let's see. Should the Steelers keep Miles Jack? I think Miles has been dealing with, I believe it was a groin injury and an ankle or something like that for the majority of the season. When he first was, started off this season and he was healthy, he seemed like a dominant force in the middle linebacker position. I think it's just going to depend on how healthy he can get. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers like his resume, so to speak, and they like what he's been able to do. But that only goes so far. I was watching the game last week, and I haven't been able to break film on this game, obviously. But last week there was a play where, and this was right before he went out with his injury, where the opposing offense ran the ball, and Miles Jack ran towards the tight end instead of up the middle. And in my opinion, he had an option, or if he would have just gone straight, he would have hit the running back right in the hole. Instead, he went towards the tight end and took himself out of the play. There's no excuse for that. Like, you can't say, "Oh man, my leg was hurting," or this or that. That's decision making. That's not reading the play in front of you. And so, how many of those are happening here recently? It seems like it's happening more often than not compared to the beginning of the season or what we've expect from Miles Jack. I expected somebody who's going to be a Pro Bowl type inside linebacker when the Steelers acquired him in free agency. He didn't. I'm gonna say this. I'm not. I don't know what his contract looks like, but if it's not too high, I'm not opposed to bringing him back, having him healthy, having a healthy defensive line in front of him, a healthy T.J. Watt, maybe a new guy in the middle. Marvin Leal looks like he's going to be a guy. He's very. He's just always on the field, like near the ball, so to speak. Now, his numbers aren't gaudy or things of that nature. And in my opinion, that a lot of that has to do with his inexperience, him being a rookie. As he gets experience, as he builds strength and develops as a player, those plays are going to come. And so, when you look at those type of things, you're looking at a second year, DeMarvin Leal in front of you, potential stud up front out of the draft, hopefully. Maybe Cam Hayward coming back, a healthy TJ Watt. I would hope the Pittsburgh Steelers sign or extend Larry Ogunjobi. I think he's done a formidable job. He's been dealing with an ankle injury the entire year, even in training camp. And so, him coming back, him having an off season and time to get healthy, perhaps maybe Miles Jack can be more of a force out there. But if you go out into free agency and you pick up a Tremaine Edmonds, I don't think you bring back a Miles Jack. I think if you go out and get a middle linebacker in free agency, then you're gonna say goodbye to Miles Jack. Good question. Good question. Let's see. Edmonds is great at run support. I agree 100%. Steelers Nation Australia says, "Yeah, man, enjoy the the town." Do you think Flores stays or goes for a head coaching job somewhere? I mean, there's a possibility that he gets plucked. However, the defense had some issues early on. Devin Bush really didn't do much. He didn't progress. He's probably not going to be on the team next season. I would be extremely surprised if he is. And so maybe perhaps he doesn't get plucked. I would hope he stays for another season. In my opinion, I would hope that the Pittsburgh Steelers would elevate him to the defensive coordinator, not taking anything away from Terrell Austin. I think, as the season progressed and TJ Watt came back, I mean, this defense did show up. I think they held majority of the teams to under 25 points. In the last few weeks, it's been under 20. And so, this defense has moved in the right direction. I would hope he comes back, but the issue is he's not even a defensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so I think that at the very least, somebody out there is going to give him an opportunity to be the head guy on the defensive side, if not the head coach. And if he ends up getting that opportunity, I mean, you can't blame him for leaving at that point. Let's see. Liao needs to add a large pizza a day to his diet until spring training and then hit the weight room. Yeah, he's not. That was one of the things that came out earlier on this offseason, that he was a little bit on the lighter side. He needed to build up and bulk up, especially if he was going to be an interior defensive lineman. I'm not opposed to him getting bigger in the right way. I'm not sure if the pizzas are the right way, but I'll take a pizza every day. Let's see. Is this the end for Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland? Ant Mac, yeah. I don't think he comes back. Benny Snell is, up to this year, everybody has said that his presence on the field is on special teams. I don't feel that his presence was that big on special teams this year, especially here recently. I think he did an okay job running the ball here and there, when Najee went down earlier this season. But I have a hard time seeing that either one of these guys coming back, to be honest with you. Steelers fan goes, I'm waiting for my pizza. Yeah, we got some Fioris while we were out here. And if you guys haven't been to Pittsburgh, and you guys do, 100% recommend it. It's probably one of the best pizza I've ever had. And I'm taking some back home for the wife. So I'm going to take this one last question, and then I'm going to be letting you guys go. Or this comment, CS Freak says, Mac will go before Snell. He will do a pitch and can block. Yeah, I agree with that. Benny Snell can do more than Ant Mac. I just don't see either one of those guys coming back. Well, unfortunately, guys, this is going to be the end of the 2022 season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They went 9-8, which, I'd rather look at it as 7-2 after the bye. And that's the way it is. They've been moving up in the right direction. They're playing better. They're playing collective. They're playing as a cohesive team. I will say this: if Matt Canada is canned, I would hope it to be sooner than later. That way, if the Pittsburgh Steelers do acquire an offensive coordinator, he has as much time as he possibly can to implement and have his playbook out there for this team to learn and progress into it. But that's going to do it, guys. That's going to be a wrap for the 2022 season. Hit that like and subscribe button, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be putting out content every week still. Just a new playlist now. It's going to be Steelers 2023. And hopefully it's going in the right direction. And the Pittsburgh Steelers rebuild year was this one. And that's it. And now the Steelers are back in contention. They're back in the driver's seat of the North. You look at the other teams in the North. Deshaun Watson, his escapability is there. He's got that talent. But, his decision-making and throwing the ball, and maybe even his talent throwing the ball, I'm not too impressed by. I've seen him play this is now, I think, twice that I've seen him play the Pittsburgh Steelers defense and not look impressive whatsoever. Once with the Browns and once with the Texans. You look at Lamar Jackson in that situation with the Baltimore Ravens. If they go ahead and pay that guy, then what's the rest of their team? There's going to be a lot of cuts there. You look at the Bengals. I think that's going to be a team that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be battling for a while. It's going to be the Kenny Pickett versus Joe Burrow show, probably for the next decade. And that's not a bad problem to have on the Steelers side, knowing that you're going to be in contention and you have a guy. But what's going on, Aquatic Live? Great to see you. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to let you all go. Steelers win. Steelers end the season on a high note, going 7-2 after the bye, beating the Cleveland Browns 28-14. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go.